In this video, I'm going to talk about food and safety handling and preparation in early childhood setting, understanding about HACCP principles, what are the strategies to maintain food safety, how parents can be educated about it, and how it can help in overall wellness of children. Food safety is the way of handling, preparing, and storing food, ensuring to be away from foodborne illnesses. The main aim of food safety is to keep food safe from contamination and poisoning. According to Mayo Clinic 2015 as cited in Sorted Axial and Amado 2017, page 235, children's immune system are not so well developed, so they are at the high risk of food poisoning and becoming sick than the adults. Also, the foodborne disease is greatest among children less than 5 years. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention 2013. So, food safety is very important in terms of children. Foodborne illness is a sickness which is caused because of the consumption of contaminated foods. Teachers play a great role in maintaining food safety as their day-to-day activity is to handle the food for children. Having knowledge about how food can be contaminated and the hazard that cause foodborne illness will help them to plan strategies to be safe from the risks of foodborne illness. Biological hazards include microorganisms that contaminate food and harm human body in three ways, that is infection, intoxication, or toxin medicated infection, Brown 2011. Chemical hazards are the unwanted chemicals present in food which might be during the growing, harvesting, processing, and storage of food. In the early childhood setting, chemical contamination occurs when cleaning agents are placed near to the foods. Physical hazards are the items like glass, rocks, metals, insects, hair, etc., which get into food causing illness. Now, food allergies and intolerance must be recognized as a special type of hazard. Most people confuse assuming food allergies and intolerance are the same thing, but they are not. Food allergies are caused because of the reaction of immune system to a protein in a body, whereas reaction due to food intolerance is usually less severe than food allergies. The only way to manage food allergy is by avoiding the exposure of allergic foods to the children. The children with food allergy and intolerance must be supervised during meal and snack time. Everyone who is working with children must know the early symptoms of food allergy and should also be trained on how to manage the food allergy. Every early childhood setting must have their own policy for the management of food allergy and intolerance. Sharing foods among children must be avoided. Teeth and chewing skills are not well developed among children. They have small airways, so the food inhaled or ingested can directly block the airways of children. So they must be properly supervised every time during eating. Common foods like hard foods, rock arrows, cereal, apple pieces, sausages, etc. that cause choking can be cut into smaller pieces, mashed or cooked, grated to prevent from choking. HACCP Hazard and Analysis Critical Control Points is a proactive preventive system for tracking food through many phases of production, processing, preparation, service, and evaluating risks for contamination. Teacher and any other staff who handle food in early childhood setting must know about the HACCP principle because it is their responsibility to ensure safe food. There are 7 principles of HACCP. The first principle is utilizing hazard analysis. This principle suggests to identify the potentially hazardous food first. Foods that support the growth of microorganisms that cause illness when not handled properly is called potentially hazardous foods. Only after recognizing such foods, strategies to ensure food safety can be established. Teacher can monitor potentially hazardous food by circling them on menu, which will help them to identify quickly which food need to be observed more. Process approach is classifying the foods according to the items it enters the temperature danger zone. Like food preparation with no cooked food, where food is not cooked and does not enter a temperature danger zone. Same way food preparation for same day service where food is heated and served same day, so it goes through temperature danger zone once. Whereas food preparation using complex food preparation where food is cooked, chilled, reheated, and food goes through temperature danger zone 2 or more than 2 times. Teacher can support process approach by holding the appropriate temperature of the food prior to service and serving immediately to children. The second principle is to recognize critical points. Critical control points are the points in the procedure of food processing, preparation, and service at which food hazards can be controlled. All hazards must be found and managed in this process. CCP can be managed using the tools like thermometers, refrigerators, freezers, ovens, etc. Critical limits must be identified for each CCP, which indicates whether the identified food safety is being managed accurately or not. This limit includes both minimum and maximum, which need to be followed. Food code can be used, which is safety guidelines established by FDA and USDA. Monitoring system is essential to ensure food is checked during each and every steps of its flow through delivery to service. This plan is set up to check critical limit point and watch for any changes that may lead to risks. Example of monitoring method is recording temperature of foods during delivery and during cooking, cooling, and reheating. Critical limits will also be monitored during this principle. Corrective action plan gives the idea about what steps to be undertaken in case of failure in critical limits. The immediate action must be taken in such case to avoid any injury or harm to human from hazards. Sixth principle is verification procedures, which verify that food has been managed according to the 5 principles talked before. This step ensures that HACCP is being implemented and working. Methods of verification includes conducting inspections during storage, production, and service of food. Keeping record ensures that each required step is accomplished correctly. Details of HACCP plan and one established critical points and critical limits must be recorded. The only way to ensure food safety is by preventing the food contamination at each stage of food handling, like purchasing, receiving, storing, preparing, and serving. The teachers who handle food in early childhood setting must know about the risks involved in each and every stage of flow of food. The flow of food is the moment from food purchase till it is served, which is shown in the figure as well. The first step of food handling is purchasing of food, and the following are the strategies to be followed to minimize risks. Use by dates and the condition of product must be checked before buying the foods. The foods with damaged packaging should never be purchased. Foods should always be purchased from the trusted suppliers. The high-risk foods must be supplied quickly or in the cooled containers. Only after choosing non-perishables, the refrigerated or frozen foods should be bought. The meat or poultry with torn and leaked packaging must be avoided. After food arrives at early childhood setting from vendor, it must be inspected carefully and checked if the food is fresh or not. The temperature of food must be checked using food thermometer. Perishable goods must be transported to refrigerated containers, and unbroken packaging of dry foods like bread and can must be checked. After food has been inspected and accepted, it must be stored properly. If not, then naturally forming bacteria can multiply to dangerous level. High risk food must be protected by keeping it in a sealed container after opening its packages, whereas low risk food must be refrigerated before cooking or until they are ready to be eaten. The temperature of refrigerator and freezer must be checked using the appliance thermometer. A refrigerator must be at 40° Fahrenheit or below, whereas freezer must be at 0° Fahrenheit or below. Perishable foods such as meat and poultry must be wrapped to ensure quality as well as to prevent meat juice onto other foods. Cold foods should always be kept cold and hot food hot. After opening a can, remaining food must be placed separately in another container and with proper labeling. First in, first out must always be kept in mind while storing foods. There are the 3 main concepts which will help to ensure food safety during food preparation. They are maintaining personal hygiene, preventing cross-contamination, and avoiding the temperature zone. It is very important for teachers who handle the food to maintain personal hygiene. Hand washing is the simplest and effective way to minimize the risks of foodborne illness. Hand washing must be practiced before cooking, after toilet, after blowing nose, after changing nappies, after handling garbage, after touching raw meats. Proper hand washing techniques is shown in the following video.
It may surprise you to know that 80% of common infections can be spread by hands in contaminated surfaces. Proper hand washing can prevent up to 1/3 of these contagious illnesses. Clean hands, stop germs. Here's how. Turn on the taps and wet your hands. Warm water works best. Use plain liquid soap and scrub your hands palm to palm. Then palm to the back of your hands. Your thumbs between your fingers, and scrub your knuckles to palm to clean your cuticles, and your fingertips to clean under your nails. Remember to scrub for a full 15 seconds before rinsing off the soap. Then dry your hands well with a paper towel, and use that paper towel to turn off the taps and open the door. Taking just a few seconds to wash your hands properly can keep you from getting sick. It's important to wash your hands often throughout the day, especially after using the bathroom, after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing into your hands, after handling animals or garbage, and before eating or preparing food. When soap and water aren't available, hand sanitizer is a great alternative. Use the same basic steps and be sure to scrub for a full 15 seconds. It's simple. Clean hands, stop germs.
Wounds should always be covered with waterproof dressing. It is important not to handle foods if teacher has symptoms of diarrhea, vomiting, fever, etc. Personal cleanliness must be maintained during food handling, like tying the long hair back or covering it with cap, wearing protective clothing over normal clothing. Teachers should not smoke, chew gum, or do any other unhygienic practices around the food handling area. Sanitizing helps to minimize the risks of cross-contamination during food preparation. Cleaning and sanitizing has their own purpose. Cleaning is basically removal of dirt, food particles using the soap and water, which does not kill all the germ, but sanitizing uses the heat or sanitizing solution which reduces the risks of cross-contamination by killing the microorganisms. Sanitizing can also be done by using the 3-compartment sink procedure as shown in the figure. There is a risk of biological contamination during all stages of food preparation like thawing, cooking, cooling, and reheating, and if the temperature is misused, the risk increases. So, it is necessary to follow the safe methods during each stage to reduce the risk of food contamination. Food should be thawed using refrigerator, which allows slow and safe thawing, but cold water and microwave can also be used to thaw food if it is going to be cooked immediately. For faster thawing, food can be placed in a plastic bag and dipped into cold water. The water should be changed in every 20-30 minutes. It is demonstrated in the following video.
So what about thawing? Well, the same rules apply to food when you're taking it from frozen storage to ready to cook. Foods should be thawed at refrigerator temperatures, so they do not stay in the 40 to 140 temperature range. You can take a shortcut by using the microwave to thaw foods, or you can thaw foods under cold running water. But the best way to thaw items is in the refrigerator, not on the countertop at room temperature.
Probe thermometers should be used to measure the temperature of food. It should be placed into the center of food and wait until the food stabilizes. Separate cutting boards should be used for raw meat and fish, cook items like meat and vegetable, fruits, etc. There can be different color code to ensure that right one is being used for right foods. Knives should be washed after cutting uncooked food, meat and fish, and before using any foods that are ready to be eaten. Food that has already been thawed should never be refreshed again. Food must be thoroughly cooked, especially of animal origin. If food is cooked from frozen state, extra care must be given to ensure it is cooked in the right way. It is important to cool foods to below 5 degrees Celsius as soon as possible if it is cooked in advance. The food should be placed in freeze after it stops steaming. Foods can be placed faster by putting it into smaller containers at first and then into cold water or placing it into cooler place. The container then must be labeled with date of cooking. Meals should always be reheated until they are steaming hot, and there is no specified temperature for reheating. Always microsafe container must be used if the food is being reheated using the microwave. Cooked foods should not be reheated more than once. If food is outside of refrigerator for 2 hours and is not served, it should be thrown away. While serving the foods, Tongs, gloves, and spoons must be used. Giving child-sized utensils to children encourages them to become independent, ensuring the safe food handling practices. Perishable foods must not be kept outside of refrigerator for more than 4 hours. If the served food is not eaten, then it must be thrown away rather than serving later. Foods which are not served from the kitchen can be covered and refrigerated. It can be reheated and served later. These are the strategies to keep food safe from purchasing to food preparation and service. There might be various situations in the early childhood settings like feeding infants, dealing with food brought from home, so it is the responsibility of early childhood teacher to ensure food safety among all the situations. Infants need special care for safe food supply. The strategies which can be useful to ensure food safety while feeding infants are offering finger foods such as small banana and well-cooked foods, always watching while they are eating, encouraging them to take time while eating and chew food well. They should not be let run and play during eating. The labels on packages can be read because they usually have warning labels if the food contains high choking risks. Early childhood teacher must have first aid and CPR and can act quickly in case of choking to children. In many cases, parents may want to send food for their children from home rather than having meals prepared in early childhood setting. This happens mostly in the case of strict diet restriction of child. Mostly, state and local authorities discourage bringing food from home, but when permitted, the parents can be guided to follow the safety procedures. They can be asked to send food always in lunchbox with frozen ice packs and labeling it with their child name. Main important thing is food should not be shared among other children. It is also necessary to maintain food safety at home, so parents can be taught about why food safety is important. Early childhood teacher and staff who handle food can cooperate with parents and give knowledge about food safety. Parents can also be provided with the fact sheets of food safety which they can follow at home. They can be invited to the setting and food safety can be demonstrated to them. When food safety is ensured in early childhood, it will create healthy food eating habits and children will get safe food. When safe food is served, it will promote healthy eating and prevent children from getting sick, which will definitely help in the overall wellness of the children.